Welcome back, fellow nerds. Today we're talking about another really cool science story using old bottles to help defend against coastal erosion. Stick around because this is a pretty cool one. Coastal erosion is quickly becoming a major global issue. As sea levels rise, more land is slowly being eaten up by the ocean, and these warmer waters and weaker coastlines mean that storms are getting more devastating as well. Those stronger storms then weaken the coastlines further, and it's a classic example of a positive feedback loop. And if we don't do anything to stop it, it could easily get out of hand. We're already seeing towns lose land every year, and the clock is ticking to find a sustainable fix. Thankfully, scientists have come up with a two birds, one stone kind of solution: recycled glass. About 40% of the US population lives near the coast, and with good reason. Living near the coast has been linked to better sleep, lowered stress, better air quality, the list goes on and on. And on top of those health benefits, coastal living means that you have access to all kinds of sports and hobbies like swimming, fishing, or boating. Overseas trade means that economic port towns are much stronger economically, and the larger amount of water means that climates tend to be more stable and milder. But the problem we're facing now is that coastlines are eroding faster than nature can rebuild them. Every storm that rolls through drags sand and settlement back into the sea. And the wetlands, those swampy, muddy buffer zones full of grass and fish and mosquitoes, are nature's armor. They absorb storm surges, slowing down flooding, and provide a safe habitat for wildlife. But we've lost over half of them in the US over the past century. Louisiana alone loses a football field worth of wetlands every 60 to 100 minutes. That's an actual statistic. Check out this graphic of land loss from 1932 to 2011. Pretty scary. Traditionally, to restore these wetlands, we dredge up sediment from rivers or the ocean floor and dump it where the land used to be. It's expensive, slow, and it's kind of like borrowing dirt from your backyard to fill a pothole in your driveway. Sure, it works, but you just made another hole somewhere else. Meanwhile, we've got another problem. We are drowning in glass waste. The US throws out millions of tons of glass every year, and a big chunk of it never actually gets recycled. Why? Because broken, dirty, or mixed colored glass is a nightmare for recycling plants. So a team of scientists in Louisiana thought of a creative solution. What if we take that glass that can't be recycled, grind it into sand, and then use that to rebuild the coastlines? That's where the project in Bayou Bienvenue near New Orleans comes in. The project is led by researchers working with Glass Half Full, a local recycling company in New Orleans. They created two man-made islands about 10 meters across. One made from regular sediment, and the other was made from a mix of sediment and recycled glass. They're using these islands to test if different plants can survive and thrive as well on a mix as they can on sediment alone. If it works, we could turn old beer bottles into literal land, which honestly feels like poetic justice for all the broken bottles left on the beaches in the first place. They filled 5-gallon buckets with different mixes of river sediment and glass sand. Then they planted various plants in the mixes and let them grow in a greenhouse. A bunch of different groups ran different studies and tried all kinds of plants, including grasses, sedges, and trees. Now, if I'm being honest, I didn't know what a sedge was before writing this script, so if you don't know what those are either, you're not alone. And by the way, it's one of these things. Anyway, then they waited to see how different plants handled the different mixes. And the results were surprisingly solid. Most plants grew just as well in the glass sand mixes as they did in the regular sediment. Some plants did fine in mixes that had a really high glass sand content, some up to 75%. One researcher said that the texture of the glass was actually beneficial in some cases. The coarse grains let roots breathe better than fine, compact mud. So there were a lot of really promising results. If this holds up in long-term field tests, it's a total game changer. Think about it. Less need for dredging means less habitat destructions in the rivers and areas of the ocean that we're pulling that from. Glass waste gets to be repurposed instead of dumped. And local recycling programs can get a whole new purpose, protecting the coast. It's literally turning garbage into armor for our coastlines. Glass sand isn't an entirely new idea, though. Some communities in Hawaii and New Zealand have already used crushed glass as sand replacement in construction and on beaches. It drains well, it's stable, and it sparkles in the sun, so it looks cool and it's eco-friendly. Imagine visiting a restored beach that glitters like it's been sprinkled with fairy dust, except for it's just your old salsa jars and soda bottles repurposed. Of course, scientists are being cautiously optimistic, and for good reason. There's still questions about the best grain size. If it's too fine, it just turns into dust. If it's too coarse, it won't really hold up in water. They're also asking whether all plant species will tolerate it. They've done a lot of testing, but there are still a lot of blind spots and plants that we don't know how they'll react to this, and how the glass behaves under tides and storms and just the ocean environment in general. And they still have to make sure it doesn't leach anything harmful or have any long-lasting negative impacts on the environment. In short, we're not building entire coastlines out of wine bottles just yet, but the early signs are promising enough that researchers are already building 2 more test islands to study over the next 5 years. What's cool about this story is that it's not just about glass. It's about creative problem solving, using what we already throw away to tackle environmental issues. Climate change is a big, messy problem, and there's no single fix. But innovations like this remind us that small, clever ideas can make a difference. Today, it's recycled glass. Tomorrow, it might be recycled plastic reefs or algae that can trap carbon. And maybe in a few decades, when you walk down a thriving green coastline, you'll be stepping on what used to be an old kombucha bottle, silently holding the line against the advancing tide. So next time you finish a drink, think about where that bottle might end up. It could just be the next coastal defense strategy. Just rinse it first though, the fish will thank you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give a like and subscribe for more cool science stuff like this. And let me know in the comments, would you trust a coastline made out of entirely recycled glass?